All right. Morning, Pingo. I think somebody already introduced me, but in case maybe you didn't get the introduction, my name is Winston Mwale, and I'm going to take you through the basics of news writing. So, chimenda banga, ndagawa ma QR code. Presentation yanga ndayikonza mosiyana kwambiri ndimene mapangira nthawi zonse. Presentation yanga ndayikonza zoti tipange follow pa WhatsApp. So apart from journalism, I'm also so much into AI and chatbot creation. So nditawuzidwa kuti ndizapange nawo present topic ya news writing. Ndinakhala pansi kupanga chatbot yapadera, special chatbot imene tipange follow. So njira yake ndi yakuti tipita WhatsApp, titsakule WhatsApp watu, kenaka tipita kuma settings amene mwina series tsatira, tithandizane nditu, tipita kuma settings, kenaka pena pake pamafunika kuti upange scan. So mukapanga scan QR code hii, mubwera pa chatbot yatu imene tinapanga create especially for this presentation. Ndeti kafika kumeneko, just send the words news writing. Tikapanga scan, tibwera pa chatbot hiyo, tikafika pamenepo, tingolemba maoti news writing. Tikalemba maoti news writing, tipange send. Tikapanga send, pabwera ma message pamenepo. My instructions are clear. Tipita kuma settings pa WhatsApp, tikapita kumeneko, pali nake umaina kupanga scan ma barcode. Nde upange scan. Ukapanga scan, it's going to take you to Africa Brief board, right? Nde mukafika kumeneko mulembe maoti news writing. Mukalemba maoti news writing, mutumize ngati message. Amene tapanga ndi anthu angati? Yes. Tikatumiza maoti message pakubwera uthenga. Yes. Are we able to follow that? Yeah, so tizitsatira pamenepo, right? Chonde tithandizane. My instructions ena ndi yakuti, please don't click any icon before I tell you. Fakupezeka kuti mwatsogola ife tili kumbuyo. So munditsatire kaye ineyo. All right. So are we on the first page? Pali ma lesson amene abwerawo. Amene tapanga ndi anthu angati? Tiye tithandizane. All right. So tikuyamba. Okay. So we get started. So, essentially, if you look at the first message, I'm just welcoming you to the news writing presentation, which is today. So the first thing that we are going to look at is what we call lead writing. Atulankana kamalemba nkhani, paragraph yoyambirira imapanga summarize china chilichonse. Nde technically ku journalism paragraph yoyambirira imene mapanga summarize china chilichonse timaitcha kuti lead. All right? Ndinasangala kwambiri pamene abusa amalalikira, ndinakhala ndi chidwi kwambiri chifukwa choti messengers aja atapita kwa King David, palibe amene anafotokoza nkhani yenene imene inachitika. All right? Now, zikugwizana bwanji nkhani ya David ija ndi lead. If you look at what David was looking for real news, okay? Amafuna nkhani yenene. So, tikamalemba nkhani, timaonetsetsa kuti kati napita kumsonkhano, kati napita kuti, koma chomwe chinayi chofunika kwambiri kumsonkhano kuja, kapena chimene chinayi chochitika kwambiri ku venue ngati inoyi, chikhale koyambirira, ife ameneyo ndiye nkhani. Chimodzimodzi David baja amafunsa ma messengers. Akuluakulu, mwana wanga mukuti ali bwanji. But those guys, amachula zina ndi zina. So it's the same thing in news writing. A journalist should go straight to the news, all right? That's what we call the lead. If you look at the newspaper, paragraph yamba ija imapanga summarize china ichonse, all right? So that first paragraph in journalism is called lead. Some call it intro, some call it lead, but essentially that first paragraph must summarize the whole story. Pamakala mavuto kwambiri, and I should tell you, I'm journalism, akakuza nokuti the most difficult part of news writing is writing. For imagine you attend an event, different people speak, the president, the ministers, and what have you. But still, you have to come up with the most important message at that event. Another crucial thing about leads is that it shouldn't exceed 30 words. Imagine you attend an event where the president has spoken, ministers have spoken, but still you have to summarize whatever was spoken there in 30 words, right? So, what we're saying there, if you go in our notes, we are saying the lead is the gateway to your story, okay? So, in the first paragraph, which we are calling the lead, you must try as much as you can to grab the attention of the news reader. Lead ili ngati nyambo, tikamawedza nsomba, timaika ku nyambo. The aim is to attract the fish, right? Similarly, with the lead, if your lead is poor, if your lead is not captivating, you find kuti owerenga newspaper ajamango itaya. So that's why in news writing, the lead is the most important part. Now, let's go on. Let's go to point number 2 if you are following. Point number 2 is that we are also going to look at what we call transition and quote formula. So, nkhani ndiye kuti tikamalemba nkhani, apart from concept ya lead imene tiyitambasule nthawi yake, tiso ndi concept ina timacha transition and quote formula. Basically, tiyitambasula kutsogoloko, komano basically transition and quote formula, ena nomwina mmadabwa kuti atola nkhani zimatheka bwanji kuti apita ku function kapena apita akulemba nkhani, komano mfundo zonse zimene atolera amatha kuziyala bwinobwino and nkhani ija nkumamveka bwinobwino. It's flowing nicely, it's flowing smoothly. Chimachitika nchani? The trick is they use what we call transition and quote formula. Chimene chimachitika titambasula tiona so diagram kutsogoloko nchakuti lead ija akailemba pa amadzayipanga information yonse ija amapanga interchange transition kubwesa quote. Transition quote. I'll give you an example. Let's say the main story, you went to an event, and then at that event the president said, well, from today I've fired the entire cabinet because of incompetence. You as a reporter, obviously, it means the most important event, the most important thing that was said kumsonkhano wa president uja. Nakaba zoti waenda bwanji, kawatani, but everyone will agree with the most important thing that the president said is the firing of the cabinet, right? So, what you do ulemba lidija. Ulemba, Malawi president, Lazarus Chakwera, today has fired his entire cabinet for alleged incompetence. Now, following the transition and quote formula, people will be having a lot of questions, right? What was the context? What about reactions, right? So, mfundo zose zija, umaza zitsitsa musumu, pogwisa ntchito transition and quote formula. So, lidija wailemba, and then the next paragraph is going to be a quote, all right? You quote the president directly, right? That's why ika newspaper, ndeti lidija wailemba hapa. Second paragraph, ikala chani, quote, ya muntu amene wamuchula kwa mbirira ukuku. You must understand that concept. The quote that comes below should be a quote of the person that has been mentioned in the previous sentence, all right? You can't bring a quote, ya muntu usana mchula kutsogoloko. It doesn't work like that. So, Lidi Jatailemba, Malawi President Lazarus Chakwera has today fired his entire cabinet because of incompetence. Apa, it's a quote of the president, right? So, for example, maybe the president has said, yeah, I've been observing this cabinet for some time. I gave them deadlines, I gave them targets, but then I've seen that this hasn't worked. So that quote is going to come here, right? You are quoting the president. And next, suppose you have gone to a political analyst to seek their views. Abana, this is unprecedented. The president has fired his entire cabinet. As a political analyst, what do you think about this? Now, you want to quote that political analyst, right? But then before you quote that political analyst, we don't bring quotes back to back, all right? It's not allowed. So, sungabwese quote ya president hapa, ngubwese so quote ya political analyst. So what do? You bring a transition in between, all right? It's like a bridge between quote ya president and the next speaker, all right? So transition imakala chani. Imakala fact or opinion. So if it's an opinion, obviously, you're going to paraphrase the opinion of this political analyst, right? So you're going to say something like this. Usanabwese quote ya political analyst. So you say, reacting to the news, one of the local political analysts, said this is going to affect operations of the government. So you are paraphrasing what this person has said, right? So ulemba, it's a transition. Now, what happens after the transition? You bring a what? A direct quote of this person. So, mwajidule, my news writers, Zimina Mapanga, they just bring quote transition. Quote transition. Story say jayatani. So that's the trick. If you look at the newspaper, newspaper, that's what they do. Abo it's a lead quote. Abo it's a pakadipa transition. The transition could be a fact or opinion. Kenaka quote. Transition, a fact or opinion, quote. Mpaka na story say jayatani. So we'll talk more about this. So let's move on. Point number 3. Choosing the right quotes and attribution. In news writing, when you bring a quote, okay, let me talk about quotes first of all, because the question would be, okay, how do I decide that this one should be a quote? There are 2 criteria that you should use. Pick where somebody has said something interesting or somebody has said something important, all right? I mean, imagine the president has said a lot of things. Can you quote all of those things? No. So what is the trick? Just pick where the president has said something interesting or something important, all right? Ndaguza ni trick ya quote, right? Because the question would be, how do I decide that this should be a quote? So the trick is, make sure it's something interesting or something what? Important. And another thing is, you must always attribute a quote. Because if you don't attribute, the reader will think that you as a journalist are the one who is saying that. Imagine you don't attribute, you write a quote saying that, from today I've decided to fire the president. Then there's no attribution. Who is saying that? So you must attribute every quote. All right? That was point number 3. And then the other point is point number 4. Avoiding mistakes. Mistakes in journalism, the cardinal sin, chimulosa kululugidwa. Timanena nditukuti, in other forms of writing, you can get away with mistakes and other things. But in journalism, that is not allowed. Because it can either land you into trouble, lawsuits, or other things, right? So make sure that you cross-check every fact before you publish it, right? All right. There is a... You got there, I will not introduce myself, but let's go to lesson 1. So can you press where it's written lesson 1? Just press there. On your WhatsApp. Just press lesson 1. See what happens. We go to the next lesson. Tabanga? Zatega? Yeah, great. Okay, so let's go to lesson 1. We are going to start with the what is news. Basically, when we talk about news, good people, It's just a piece of information. But then, this information shouldn't be just any information. There are three very important criteria to judge that this information should be regarded as news. First of all, understand that news is information, right? That people want to hear or learn about. But then how do you decide? Because you can't just pick any other information and then decide this is news. There are three important criteria. One, ask yourself whether this information is important. How many people does it impact? So we always say, the more people the information impact, the more newsworthy it is, right? So it's information, okay? But then, is it important? How do you decide that it's important? It should affect as many people as possible, right? I'll give you an example. Let's say myself, I've got a shop somewhere. I sell sugar. Pashopo sugar uja ineyo ngati muntu ngati Mr. Mwale ndakweza mtengo. Kwatu kudzenza uko anthu ogula around my shop akumva kuti Mr. Mwale akweza sugar wao. Well, and then also consider maybe big companies, agro-business companies, they hike their prices of maybe fertilizer. Obviously, the hiking of fertilizer is more important than the hiking of sugar by Mr. Mwale. You understand? You're saying information, impact yake ndio tani. Is that clear? So, I hope we've understood the meaning of news. News is information, but then that information has to be important. How do we decide that this is important? It must have an impact on the largest section of society, all right? But then, sometimes news cannot be important. It can be interesting. Actually, the funny thing is that interesting news sometimes is more attractive than important news. I'll give you an example. During budget time, sessions, parliament, how many people here follow the deliberations? But do you know what is mina makambirana kuja? Nzofunika kwambiri, it shapes, it affects our lives, right? Some stories could be just interesting. I'll give some examples. I think Ublanda Ntainage, Mkuru Inagana Kwera Polo Magets. It attracted a lot of people, right? Why? It was interesting. Chisanzo chimene ndimakondoperekaso ndikamapuzisa topic iyi. Ndinkani za maboma pa MPC. Why do people follow those stories? I mean, they have no impact on us. Come day in, day out, because of the interest aspect. So what I'm saying is, information is karayofuniga. Komano ngatatorangani. We should also cover interesting stories, right? We can't run away from that. That's why even if we go Europe, go overseas, if you've noted, my channel, my magazine, my TV station, I'm maenda malondo kombili. Ndiye ma gossip, ma bodza, kapena zina zake chan. Okay, madodo panga zakuti. People rush there. And it's big business. All right? Another fact is, apart from being important, interesting, it must be recent. Zikazo zachitika kumene. People are interested in recent events, right? So mukamale mbangani zanu, onesano dinkaniyo, it's important. How do I decide? It must affect many people. Or if it's not important, at least it's interesting. But then, most importantly, ask yourself, is it new? In journalism, we say news is news when it is new. News is news when it is what? New. People are not interested in old stories. All right. Now, let's go to another concept. There's a quiz there. Yeah, let's see who is going to get it correct. Quiz number 1 says, what is the primary purpose of news according to Walter Cronkite? Of course, you might read on your own. So there's a question there, what is the primary purpose of news according to Walter Cronkite? Walter Cronkite was a US journalist. So who can give us the answer? It's a multiple choice thing. You can guess, you can even say, go. Nena, if you don't mind. Yeah, everybody agrees C, right? Okay, great. Let's move on. Click lesson 2. Just click lesson 2. Zateka? Yeah. Yeah, when I was coming here, I said, no, let me bring something new. Okay. Lesson 2, let's talk about how, by the way, pamena mandipanga invite, I hope mwatenga zolembera, I hope mwatengera so polemba, poti mulembepo. Because I was told kuti, Bwana Mwale, mukaone sisi kuti pamene mukumaliza presentation yanu, ma participants akalembe nkhani, nde mulemba nkhani. So ngati sitikutsatira bwinobwino, tungutengeka ndika chatbot ika, tidziwe kuti tilemba nkhani kumapeto kwake, kukhala exercise. Okay, so, how do we craft a news story? I think we talked about the fact that every news story should start with the lead. And this lead must only carry important information, must only carry interesting information, must also make sure that the information here is recent. I hope these concepts are clear. Now, let me go back to the concept of transition code formula. So, when you are given a task to write a story, this is what you do. So let's assume kuti mwapita ku msonkhano wa mpingo, ka msonkhano wa jani, you are taking down notes kuti with the hope kuti nthawi nake ndikalemba story. I'll give you tricks. So tikamatsatira msonkhano uja, when you are taking down notes, it's impossible to take down everything. It's impossible. So what do we do in journalism? In journalism, we strive to answer 5 questions only. We call them 5 W's and an H. What happened? Where did it happen? Why did it happen? When did it happen? Okay? And who was involved? Those are W's, right? And then the H, how did it happen? What does this mean? It means kuti, when you go to cover some story, whether it's a meeting, whatever, you take down notes according to those questions only, all right? For example, where did it happen? You have to take down in your notes, where is this happening, right? So in case of Malawi, it's okay, Mudzimandani, Munomu, Tiendani, district, at least those are where. And then the question of who. Always look around. Of course, we look for prominent people. Okay, but it's on Dani. So you take down the who. When it's about dates, right? Zajitikali. Okay, zajitikali rolo veruga particular kutakote. Okay? What about why? Find out. If they didn't articulate in their speeches why they're doing it as a journalist, go to them. Because the thing is, the readers will be interested in why, right? We answer these questions on behalf of readers. And then how? Also try to take down the how. So what I'm saying is, tikamapa cover my event, tionesese mafuso 5 yewa ayankidwa, all right? Who, what, where, when, why, and how. 5. All right. So, tiyerekeza kuti mwapita ku msonkhano wanu uja, you've taken down those notes, you go to the office. You sit down now. I want to write the story. What do? Takambirana kale kuti lead nimene bwera poyamba. So ask yourself, ndatolera notes zonsezi izizi. But from these notes, which one is the most important thing? So you go back to the issue of, okay, what is the most important thing that was said here? Or the most interesting thing? Or the most recent thing? Right? So you have to summarize that into 30 words only. I tell you, people who have been in journalism, they'll tell you the hardest thing in news writing is lead writing. Lead ndio vuta kwa mbili. Ukangotana ndi lead kuna kumapitiza bwino sizimavuta. So you have to summarize the whole story in 30 words. Then after that, what do? Sizivuta hai. Umangotenga notes zako zija, you just be interchanging mujatana na muja. Ndeti kulidi huku ngati unachula munthu wina ningoyepereka chitsanzo china, maybe the lead says 2 2 people have been killed in a road accident in Lilongwe today, police say. So, lead in the E. Obviously, the next paragraph, which we said should be a quote from the police, right? It's natural. So here you quote the police. Maybe you have spoken to the National Police spokesperson. So you say, you quote. Some quotation could be, well, the accident happened because the driver was overspeeding. So you attribute that information to him, right? Maybe you've also spoken to the officials at some hospital where some people have been referred to, unalankula now to find out their condition. I hope we are following, right? First paragraph, lead. 5 people have been killed in a road accident, and 5 people have been killed, and 2 others have been injured in a road accident in Lilongwe today, according to the police. 30 words only. Here, we bring a quote. So you quote the National Police spokesperson. The accident happened because the driver was overspeeding or he was drunk. So you quote him. You also mention his name and position, right? You attribute that to him. Next, what do we bring? Let me find out. A transition, right? So we want to go to the hospital, but we are saying we don't bring quotations back to back. It's not allowed. So what do? You can say, meanwhile, officials at Kamuzu Central Hospital said the condition of people that have been referred to the hospital is improving, right? So it's a bridge. You want to bring a quotation from someone from the hospital, but before you bring their direct quotation, bring a transition, right? So soon after that, you bring a direct quotation from whoever you have spoken to, kuchipatala kuja. All right? Ndetilekezeso kuti munalankula ndi wachibale, one of the people that has been killed or has been injured, just to feel their reaction. So what are we going to do next? Another what? Transition. All right? Before you bring their direct quotation. So story yose imaenda joncho. Lead, quote, transition. Quotation, transition. Quotation, transition. But na story say matter. If you go back today to have a look at the newspaper, you'll be surprised. Is this in Mango and grammar? So this is how it's written. That's how it's written. All right? Okay. There is a quote. There's a quiz. Quiz number 2. What is the purpose of a transition in the transition code formula? Quiz number 2. Somebody says B, to grab the reader's attention. Okay, those who say B, put up your hands. Well, these two say B. Did you say D? You are saying B, right? Yeah, put up your hand. Okay, those who say D, yeah, the correct answer is D. Basically, the idea of the formula is to smoothly connect to the next key opinion. Okay, so now we are going to have a look at a chart of what we've been talking about, transition and code formula. Can you press where it's written TQ? Press there. Tabanga, press, eh? There is a chart there, right? So if you look at that chart, it graphically explains concept. So you find the first part is the lead. The next part, okay, you might be shocked. Okay, Mr. Mwale, you were saying soon after the lead, there should be a quote. Additional information, I will explain. You've got a lead which needs a lot of information, okay? But because you can't pack a lot of information into one lead, right? Sometimes you break that lead into 2, all right? Into 2 paragraphs or into 2 sentences. Is that clear? I'll give you an example. Let's go to the police example. So first paragraph, you can say 3 people have been killed and 2 others have been injured in a road accident today in Lilongwe. If you look at the lead, what alimo, what has happened alimo, where ndikuonetsa kuti where alimo, ndikuonetsa kuti when akupezekaso momo. Koma no chifukwa choti mwina ukozipezeka kuti leader why sakupezeka, for example, that's when you can split the lead into two. So let's go back to the example. So in the first paragraph, we can say 2 people have been killed, and 2 people have been killed, and 2 others have been injured in a road accident today. Now, because you want to attribute that information to the police, they will set up additional information about it. So you can say, according to the National Police spokesperson, so and so, the accident happened because of overspeeding. You see what we've done? So we brought it to, we've split the lead into 2, right? That's why if you look at that chart, akunena kuti nthawi zina ukaona kuti information mu lead muja yachuluka kwambiri, you can split it. You can bring another additional paragraph which is going to form part of the lead, all right? Because I knew when you see that, you'll be confused. Mr. Mwale, you've been saying soon after lead there should be a quotation. I hope that explains, right? All right. So if you look at that diagram, it simply explains the whole concepts that I've been explaining about the transition and quotation formula. So when you get home, take time to study that diagram, all right? That's how whole news stories are written. If you're wondering why it's easy for journalists to pack all the information from top to down, a lot of stuff, that's how it's written. Lead, quotation, transition. Lead, quotation, transition. Transition, umatakuipanga interchange. Transition, you can bring in a fact or an opinion of someone, but you just paraphrase it, all right? Are we okay on that? Okay. What do we do next? Press 3, lesson 3. Okay, lesson 3, we're going to look at types of leads. There are many types of leads in news writing, but the simplest one and the most common one is what we call the summary lead. The summary lead goes straight to the point. Okay? For example, if the president, during some event, has announced the firing of his cabinet, go straight and talk about the firing of the cabinet. I'll go back to the story of David. David was looking for a lead, in other words, all right? I think David was a very good news reader. He was asking for a lead. Those guys were just mumbling. David was saying, no, give me a lead. What is the story? In other words, what is the story? All right? So, in as much as there are so many leads out there, I would encourage you to practice what we call summary lead. A summary lead goes straight to tell what has happened, all right? It answers the question, what has happened? So this is the type of lead that you and me, when you are just starting out, you should practice, all right? China chicho sapamoyo watu, tisanayambe kulowelera ukunduku. You should know the basics, right? If you know the basics, it's easy kuti ukozomalowa ukunduku because at least you know the basics, right? Okay, so what does the summary lead do? It summarizes those 5 W's and an H. It answers who, what, when, where, why, and how. That's it. If you look at the example that I've been giving, your policy, you find it answers those questions. 5 people have been killed and 2 others have been injured in a road accident in Mponela today. Today, when? 5 people, of course, what has happened, 5 people have been killed. Where it's about place, when it's today, right? Okay, now, let me talk a bit about, sometimes we might be tempted to start our leads with the who, when, and where. What am I trying to say there? What I'm trying to say is, when we're writing a lead, sometimes we can be tempted to start with the name of someone. In news writing, the only people that you can mention or you should mention in the lead are prominent people. I'll try to explain that. Okay, let's say 2 accidents have happened. One accident has involved the president. Another accident has involved, well, some vendor somewhere. In the lead, I'm talking about when you can start with who in the lead, right? In the lead, the only time when you can use the who is when some prominent person has been involved. Okay, let me give you an example of a church scenario. Okay, I'll use this example. If something has happened involving him, you can directly, in the lead, mention his name and position. So you go straight, Pastor John Piri, president of so-so, has done ABC. Because of his prominence, right? Now, let's say a church member, sorry, people are not, we're all equal, but others are more equal than others. I mean, it's natural, okay? In court, sorry, member Lawamba, I don't like that. Naiso has been involved in some scandal or some story. Unfortunately, because they are not prominent, don't mention them in the lead, all right? You can mention them along the way. Story moja. Let's say these 2 have been involved in something. So, because of his prominence, mention his name in the lead. That's why, Mama Story president, my ministers, amachula maina kwa yambirira. It's because of the prominence. Koma china chake chachitikira, let's say, president wa mavenda kwina kwake. Simungamve akuchula dzina lake kulidi kujako hai. Dzina lake will come somewhere within the story. Kwambira kuja, they will just say, the president of Minibus Association in Malawi has called upon Chan Chan Chan. But if it was the president, they will say, President Lazarus Chakwera. Why? Because of his prominence, right? So let's take note of that. And then another thing, don't start your lead with when, unless the when is important. So what do I mean? What I mean is, mukulemba lead yanu, don't start with something like, today, an accident has happened. You see, you have put the when at the beginning, right? It's not allowed in news writing. You understand? So don't start with when, all right? So, what about, don't get confused with this when, amene ndamchulapa kuti tisambe nayo kwambirira, ndi when uja amene tikunena kuti akwenda kupezeka mu news. These are 2 different things, right? What we're saying ababa tikunena kuti when you are writing your story, when asakala kwambirira. So, for example, don't say today, this is what has happened, all right? That is wrong. If you want to mention today or the when, then akakhala kumapeto kwambirira kuchulani zimene zachitika, right? Does that make sense? All right. Tikunena so kuti where asayambe lead yano. Your lead should not start with where. Let me give you an example. Don't start your lead by saying in Ilongwe today, in Ilongwe, so such a thing has happened. You see, that's a mistake. In Ilongwe, such a thing has happened. No. So avoid starting your leads with who. Komanopa who po kapo, we have said there's an exception, right? Unless those people are prominent. Otherwise, akapompa ngolo ngati ife mutichule mkati kati mwa story. All right? Tidigire, all right? Okay. But then you can start with your leads with the how something has happened. You can start with your leads with why something has happened. You can also start your leads with what something has happened. All right, very quickly, quiz time. Which type of lead is recommended for more in-depth understanding of the news story? C. Well, the answer is C. Can we press 4? Timalize lesson 4. Okay, 4. Tukuyandikira tu kuja kolemba nkhani kuja. Tukuyandikira. Kwina kungati sikumvetsetsa zitivuta kutsogoloko. Pang'ono tukuyandikira. Okay. Tilipa, writing a good lead. So how do you write a good lead? So read the entire prompt first, but basically what I mean is you have gathered the notes. Unapita kwa msongano. Editor anu anakutumani, Linda, the president has got a press briefing today or has got some meeting. Can you go there? So we all know before the president, most of the times, other people speak. Don't overrule them. Don't rule them out. Surprisingly, some the person who is, I mean, the one who is not not prominent at that particular time can say something important. So don't just say, okay, yeah, Mr. Mwale, I notice you, Master Zikalaba president. Yeah, I didn't say that. So listen to all of them, right? Ndazina kukozo teka tu amena kuzutsa president na mena alankule zintu zodzizimutsa kwambiri. So also pay attention to them. So what we're saying is, gather all those notes. And the trick yopanga gather notes da fotokoza kale. Make sure all your notes are answering the 5 questions. Who, what, and so on, right? Okay. If you amongst your notes, why is Sakuyankidwa? Find out. Make sure you find out. Who is Sakuyankidwa? Find something to write. Right? So, after you have gathered all those notes, you sit down, you analyze those notes, and then make a decision. Out of all this, which one is the most important one? Pazozi zimene analankhula president, kapana so analankhula anthu ajawa. Chochititsa chitu kwambiri, chimene chikupanga affect miyoyo ya anthu ambiri ndi chiticho. Pick that and then include it in the lead. Is that clear? So that's what we are saying there, that before diving into news writing, you must read all your notes thoroughly and then make a decision. Zinazo zisieni, zibwera mkatikati mwa story. Story sinate. You know, when I was one of the editors at Zodiac, I had problems with one reporter, sindumchura dzina. So you find kuti akamatumiza ma lead ija kutumiza, his leads could exceed 60 words. So I said, Agul, we all know a lead shouldn't go beyond 30 words. Yeah, inaliza mbili zolemba. So don't be like him. Muzambili zolembazo, pezani zimene zikupanga summarize nkhani yoseyo into 30 words. Do you know kuti if you can't summarize whatever story you are writing into 30 words, it means you haven't understood the story. The story. What more the reader? Ngati ukulephera kumvetsetsa kuipanga summarize story into 30 words, it means kuti story yoyo sunayimvetse. Zivulezitani. You can't blame anyone. It's a problem. So timalimba kwambiri ndakuluwa. Yeah, inaliza mbili zolemba akulu nde muona tupanga bwanji. So I would trim it into 30 words. Okay, let me talk about point number 4. Concerns, factual, and third person. So basically, the lead should be brief, 30 words. Let me talk about factual. I think I've said it. In journalism, factual mistakes are deemed to be cardinal sins. Chimolosa kululukidwa. And then third person. In news writing, don't ever include first person. Don't ever say, I. So we normally use third person. So don't also use second person, like you. I mean, you in news writing. So it's, don't avoid I, first person, also avoid second person, right? It's always third person. He said, they said, she said, right? Okay. Also, Ziga Mumkani. Yeah. Okay, there is a quiz. Number 4. What is the recommended writing style for a news lead? C, third person, concerns and factual. All right, let's click lesson 5. Okay, lesson 5. We are going to talk a bit about direct quotes. Of course, so direct quotes, there should be a link between the previous paragraph and the direct quote here. Now, here's the thing. The reader should see some clear linkages between the direct quote and the previous paragraph. Let's say in the previous paragraph, you wrote something like, the Minister of Education, so is directed ABC. Then mu direct quote, mukachura zinthu zina zake, which is not related to what has been said in the previous sentence. Is it making sense? So make sure kuti zigwirizane zimene zili mu direct quote ndi zimene wachula kapena walemba in the previous sentence. Now, there's another rule again. Make sure your direct quote should not be the same as the previous sentence. Let me give you an example. Even in radio, by the way, these principles work. Amene mu radio, principle mwina kumadabot nanga ife tiri ku radio tikapanga bwanji zosavuta. Pamene pali direct quote ipo pabwera insert pamenepo. Ngati muli ku TV pabwera clip ya munthu zosavuta. So my principles ake ndi amodzi. So ku newspaper abweretsa direct quote, ina amene ku wireless pamene pali direct quote mubweretsa ka clip ka munthu akulankhula. Amene muli ku TV mubweretsa clip ka footage ka munthu akulankhula. Okay, let's go back to the issue do fotokoza pano. Don't make this mistake kuti paragraph yoyamba yakamba zina zake ndi mu direct quote mukubwerezaso zimene zikupezeka mu paragraph yoyamba. That's a mistake. Aku radio, I used to make this mistake, I remember, in my early days at Zodiac. I remember Teresa Ndanga used to say, but Mr. Winston, zimene akulankhula uyu zimene wa fotokoza mulidi zikufanana. It's a mistake. So, for example, the direct quote should be an explanation or expansion of what has been said in the previous sentence. So don't repeat what you have written in the previous sentence mu direct quote. Point imene yamveka. Mukakhala ku wireless nde osabwereza zimene zikupezeka mulidi munthu uja kaklipi kamene mobweretsa kaja akulankhulazo zomwezo. Nipazimva kuti ma wireless ambiri. Clip kupezeka ndende zimene akufotokoza munthu kapena akulankhula munthu ndi zimene zachulidwa kulidi. The direct quote should just explain or expand what has been said. Another thing is my direct quotes shouldn't be long. Actually, in news writing, you should always strive to make sure that your sentences are short, not going beyond 30 words, right? Attribution, please always attribute all sentences. Attribution, in newspapers, you find kuti attribution imakhala kwayambirira if you have noted. Imakhala kumapeto. In newspapers imakhala kumapeto. So you find kuti direct quote ibwera apa, ma quotation ndi attribution ibwera kumapeto. In radio, we start with the attribution. Okay? So in radio, you'd say, Mr. Konyongwa said ABC. In a newspaper, I'll bring the quotation first, right? I can say, said Mr. Konyongwa. All right. Very quickly, there is a quiz. When should attribution be included in a direct quote after the first sentence? Okay, finally, Tifuna Dilembenkani, can you click where it's written, writing a new story? Tafika paja, timanena paja. Writing a new story. Can you click there? Okay. It says, writing a new story. Imagine you are a reporter covering the opening of a new community state park. Use the following details to write a new story. So those are just details that you have gathered about the new skate park. There is skate park opening, so the when is there, the where is there, and some names of officials are there, some names of organizations are there, etc. So instructions. Write a lead that summarizes the most important or newest details, including a quote from Mayor Smith about funding and safety. Use a transition and quote from Skate Youth about beginner lessons. Add any necessary context and details. Structure with additional transitions and quotes. So basically, I want you to use those notes there to write a new story. So you look at those notes and decide which ones are the newest, are the most important ones, put them in the lead, but the lead should not be more than 30 words. All right? And then bring a quotation from any of those officials. You can create your own quotation, okay? Maybe because of time, we will not write the whole story. Can you just write the lead for me from those notes? Is that okay? Just write a 30-word lead from those notes there. Skate park opening on March 1st, located at park and what have you. Just write a lead. In other words, tell us what is happening, when, where, okay? 30 words. Is that okay? All right. So, tikapeza nthawi tikoza kapanga click pali sample story po when we get home, then we'll see the story imene is written using those notes. You can should also urge you kuti apart from zimene kulemba panopa za just writing the lead, when you get home try to write the whole story and then compare it with the sample story there. But for now, can we write the lead, please? I don't see people writing. Just write a lead based on those notes. 30 words only. Should just summarize what is happening there. Abana, Mwalemba? Oh, it's a question. So in that case, what you can do, you can write the story, but don't indicate the writer. You can just say staff writer. How many have managed to write the lead? Or how much time do you still need? Okay. Yeah, I'll give you 2 minutes. So you have seen, I've been saying, Kuti, in news writing, lead writing is the most hardest thing. You step into the newsroom, the editor is there. Abana Mabwela, hey, what's the story? Struggling in your head. Remember, the lead should answer the question, what is happening? Where is it happening? When is it happening? Why is it happening? If there's a who, that's okay. Are you done? Okay, let me go around and see some of the leads that have come out. Okay, this lead here says, City Park is set to become the hub of excitement for skateboarders as a brand new community skate park is scheduled to to open its doors on March 1st. Can you count the number of words, please? This one says, oh, it's a lead about this, right? You've departed from, okay. The Central Malawi Conference Communicators Conference at Nalikule College of Education with CMC Director, I'm getting, some word is missing. I think some word is missing. The Central Malawi Conference Communicators Conference at Nalikule College of Education with CMC Director, don't you think some word is missing? Look, have a look at it. Who else has written their lead? Make sure your lead shouldn't go beyond 30 words. Mayor Jen Smith opened a new community state park at City Park. When? When is it? Which one? Opening of a skate park created in partnership with Skate Youth Organization by Mayor Jen Smith. When? Okay, let's read this one. A new skate park is to be launched on 1st March at Lilongwe City Park, donated by Mayor Jen Smith in partnership with Skate Youth Organization. Yeah, perfect. 28 words. So you are within, can I read it, please? Oh, I think I already read it, yeah. So if it's 28 words, I think that's perfect. Who else? Okay. How many words? 19. Mayor Jen Smith, in partnership with Skate Youth Organization, opens a state park on 1st March at City Park. Great. At least who is there, when, what is happening. Okay, just a moment. How many words? Okay. The Mayor, Jen Smith, will officially open Skate Park tomorrow, the 1st March in City Park. The park will offer skate lessons for youth. Perfect. How many words? 18. A new community skate park will be opened on 1st March at City Park, which will be providing ramps, rails, bows for skates with the provision of funding from who? From who? Okay. Which one? This one? Okay. How many words? Okay. Skate Park will be opening on 1st March at City Park by Mayor Jen Smith, who has provided funding in partnership with youth organization to offer skate lessons for beginners. Is it yours? Perfect. All right. So I think we end there because of time, but I hope you've managed to grasp something. You've understood some concepts of news writing. Just like any other skill, news writing demands that we should be practicing, right? Yeah, so before I go, I was impressed with those pictures outside there, but then I wished those pictures next time should be accompanied by stories, right? Next time when I come here, mastori ngataja zituzi zija. Paka pese kuti pale mastori. All right? That would be great. All right, on that note, thanks so much. Questions, all right. Can somebody be moving a mic? Some volunteer be moving a mic around. Okay, question time, yeah. Yeah, sure. Is it working? Is it working? Okay, yeah, I'll try to be close with you. Yes. It seems it's working. No. Okay, just go ahead, sir. The word what?
The word have, as opposed to has. Somebody's name have.
Okay, all right. Okay, so he's asking, what's the standard practice on quotations, direct quotations, whether we use double quotes or single quotes? For that question, I would say it depends on house style. It's basically house style. So by house style, what I mean is each newsroom has got their own house styles. So when you are employed in a certain newsroom, you should always find out what's the house style for your newsroom. I'll give you an example. Maybe they've changed it to Zodiac, but if you noted with the Zodiac, when they were addressing people, they were saying Mr., Mrs., all right? You go to a different media house, they were dropping Mr. or Mrs. So it's a house style. I hope I've answered that question. Yeah, so that's important. I think as SDA communicators, you can agree on your own house style, right? Because I think it would be wrong, Guti, person X or communicator X writes in their own way, and then if communicator Z writes in their own way. You can always agree what would be the house style. Now, on the use of have and has, well, I think this boils down to, we go back to grammar, i.e. subject-verb agreement, right? So we all know that if the subject is plural, the verb should also be plural. For example, you can't use have when the subject here is singular. For example, you are talking about me alone as a person, Winston Mwale. You can't say Winston Mwale have, all right? But I think I've noted that if others, I think, would agree with me. I've noted that there is a departure from this rule from football teams. Matimu Ampira, that's what I've noted. Matimu Ampira, somehow, I've noted that they are treated as plural. I don't know. So you find that they would say something like, wanderers have, it's allowed. You know, I tried to reason with someone, but when I was reading around, even internationally, it seems they're departing from the rules, right? Because, I mean, a football team is a single thing. So why use have? But that's what I've noted. Masera Ampira, they treat teams, or they use teams with the have. But I haven't seen in other contexts, apart from football, where a journalist would use have for a singular subject. I hope I've answered your question, right? Yes, yes. Yeah, but seriously, except football teams, I don't see why or how someone can use a single subject with a plural verb. I mean, you've just broken the rules of grammar. All right. Any other question? Yes. Is it working this time?
Okay. Kusolayamba ndone nakuti kwambiri iyoyo ndimaiva ngati it's hard news. Ndimafuna ndifunse kwambiri ku soft because ife ngati ma communicators za Central American Coast platform imene timapitisa nkhani zathu ndi pa Facebook page, website which is soft. Number 1 nimafuna ndifuse nkhani ya headline sindinaive komukugamba.
Okay.
And I've noted kuti nkhani zambiri zimene anzathu amapanga publish online, they don't have headlines. Zathu zimakhala nazo. So ndimafuna ndidziwe kusiyanitsa.
Okay.
Number 2, ndimafuna ndidziwe kutalika kwake kuti tikamalemba kuti we are writing kuti izizi ndizikupita pa online zikapangidwa publish pa online zizikhala zazitali bwanji chifukwa choti sometimes zimalemba nkhani mwina maparagraph 7, 8, 9 pamene I've seen our friends imene amalembera mwina amakhoza kulemba paragraph 4 ndiye pamene papa ndimafuna kuti maybe ku soft.
Okay. So let me start with the soft copy thing plus my headlines. So I agree with you. If you remember what I said at the beginning, I said for you, for us as starters, let's first of all practice what is called the summary lead, all right? Ukadzoma basics achina chilichonse umakhala ndi ufulu omalowelera kwina ndi kwina because you understand the concepts, right? Now, coming to your question, it's true that some of the stories that you people might be writing will be treated as soft news. Stories like maybe you are writing a story about some church member that is making a living in some other income generating activity. Obviously, in that case, you can't use a hard news story lead, right? You can find a soft news, or you can write a soft lead, a soft news lead, right? So you can start with something like, when everybody is complaining of how to make money, Mrs. So-so has found a way of, you see, it's different from going straight to the president has said, 5 things, you understand? So I agree with you. Depending on the news, you can use soft copy or hard news. Mastori ngati abusa alengeza zina zake za kusinda mu mpingo. You can't use soft news. You go straight to the hard news, right? Mastori ngani zina zake chitukuko kapana zinthu zina zake zodabwitsa, you can use that. Headlines. Every story has to have a headline. If you master, chifukwa chake mapanga insist kuti ngati sunamvetsetse lead, I mean sunakwanisa kulemba lead, sunaipange summarize into 30 words. Ndeti nkhani sunamvetsetsa. Now it goes back to the headline. It will be difficult for you to write a headline of a story that you don't even understand. For a headline, imachokera mu lead. What happens is that inuyo ngati mtolankhani mukalemba story, as a reporter, by the way, this is information that you should understand. As reporters, we don't write headlines. Headlines are written by journalists called sub-editors. All right? So, where do the sub-editors and these editors get an idea what the headline is? They get the idea from your lead. So if your lead is poorly written, the sub-editors will also struggle to come up with a headline. So you see the interrelationship. Yeah. And then nanena sokuti story yatu yambendi lead, kulidi kujatikeko the most important thing, eh? Now, tiyerekeza kuti mwapanga mistakes zimene simunazitsatire. The most important aspect of the event or the story, you've buried it, mwakaika kupasi huko. This is also going to mislead the sub-editor because they'll be struggling kuti apeze headline ya story, eh? All right. The second part was about what was it? Have you answered your question? Oh, the length of stories, right? Yeah, online. The beauty of online, as opposed to newspaper, radio, is that online you can accommodate as many words as you want, right? But the thing is, these days people are in a hurry. People are busy. Unless your story is so interesting, unless your story is so important, that's when people will read a 2,000-word story. But otherwise, my story had to as a color for you. That's what I would say. How many people would want to read as if it's a Zilakaza Nshiro? That's what Dimazika Kamiza. Kuma story. amangoverenga first paragraph, second paragraph. That's why we're insisting kuti lead should summarize everything. Because amangochokera pa lead pompaja basi, they'll stop reading. Right? All right. I think, yes.
Just wanted to know how long should be the court. Paragraph chachitali court. I'm quoting the Central Malawi Conference President Jack Piri said ABC. Then it's a long one. How long should it be?
Okay. Take it from me. Every sentence in your news story shouldn't exceed 30 words. So what does this mean? Even a quote should be short. That's why if you remember, we said, where do we quote the person? Unless they say something interesting or important. So you can't come up with a lengthy quotation. It means you haven't pinpointed the most interesting thing. So just go straight to the most important part. Okay, kwa wireless. Kwa wireless, umakautu muntu uja wamujambula. Koti, timakatenga ka klipi, kamene walankula zochitisa chidwi. Mwachisanzo, pali ka klipi kena kake, pamene walankula kuti, kuyambira lero, fereleza mdziko muno, wakwera mtengo. Ndipo, fereleza wachitowe, alipa mtengo mwakuti. Fereleza wakani, alipa mtengo mwakuti. So you can take that clip because it's the most interesting thing, right? People want to hear that. I hope I've answered your question. Yes. Sorry, because of time, we end here. Thanks so much.